South Africa from Stats SA, Mr. Risenga Maluleke, who'll be outlining how we can use service delivery statistics to enhance intergovernmental relations and improve outcomes in our communities as well. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so I'm hoping that you'll be able to participate in that. But please help me welcome the Statistician General, Mr. Risenga Maluleke.
Let me thank you, Clement. So Lee knows how to get my presentation. Let me thank you, Clement and Kathy. It's very interesting that we can engage and, it looks like it's here now. Yeah. We can engage. I'm not a very good public speaker, so if I stammer, just finish for me. But let me stand on all protocols that have been observed, seated next to the SALGA president, Mr. Stofile. He was saying if you were to start and list all the people that are here in their titles, you would not finish the discussion. So he said I must just start with him and go and finish with Prof. Somadoda Fikeni and say on average I have actually noted all of you on protocols observed. I bring with two deputies from Stats SA, one of them Solimulai, as well as Ashwell Gineka, who will handle the difficult questions in the Q&A. But Mr. Makuela, because today I'm going to talk about a variety of numbers that we produce at Stats SA. I'm not going to talk about the census, but because we know in recent times that Stats SA was all over the media in relation to the census. Two professors from the University of Cape Town, Center of Actuarial Research, came out and said the census is bogus. And when they said the census is bogus, political parties carried it and continued to say the census is bogus. And as they were carrying the notion of the census is bogus, the professor said, no, we didn't say it's bogus. We didn't say go and redo the census. We just said there are smaller things there that you need to sort out. And then now the political parties didn't know what to do. And I'm saying this because you started on that, Mr. Makuela, that sometimes we see something being said and we carry the narrative because it gives a lot of popularity to show that there are weaknesses somewhere. But let me stand here and give assurances to all of you that the census has gone through a battery of quality checks. The first one is data collection, which is followed by bringing local and international experts that look at it. Then there is what we call the post-enumeration survey, which does quality checks on the census. And then it also has local and international experts. Then comes the Stats Council, which is independent of Stats SA, coming from members of society like yourselves, including the academia. And of course, once that is done, then they advise the Statistician General, release the numbers. There is indeed the highest undercount we have observed in our country, but that doesn't mean that the census cannot stand the test of time. So it is solid. We're using it for planning. When we start releasing data at lower levels, and this man called Solimulai is the one who will be responsible for that. When we release data at lower levels, we will come out and say this data cannot come out because it shows biases. So I appeared before Parliament and I was sometimes told, Statistician General, release the numbers even when they have biases. I said, I don't work under pressure. the Statistician General, who has been given the law by Parliament, cannot come under pressure from parliamentarians to do irregular things. Otherwise, we must go and find another Statistician General, not this Statistician General. Because when you buckle under pressure, then, and you have said you will uphold independence, then tomorrow a gogo comes, you have to listen to them because every user is important. Prof. Kit, I listened to you in your input. One of the things we must do is to take education to everyone so that education is not laced in terms of population group or by color. Because what we have seen in the census debate, it actually followed a notion of what population group can speak louder and what population group needs to be supervised. And I'm saying that human life has equal worth and equal contribution. So I'm going to give you the presentation from Stats SA. We are saying that we give data as Stats SA. We don't worry ourselves about input indicators or process indicators. So I'll give you a housing analogy. One is that look at the number of houses built every day. We have workers that are there, we have bags of cement, we have stones that are being used. We don't look at those ones. Process indicators, we don't look at how many houses are built per day, how many houses are built per week, or how many bags of cement are being used. But when the number of houses, the output are out, we want to know how many houses are there. And of course, outcomes, how many people access such houses. And then when we go to impact, it's not our space. It's space of the HSRC and other bodies, DPME, that have to evaluate whether policies are working or not. Because if the Statistician General starts saying, this policy is not working, we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If tomorrow, for whatever reason, the numbers don't confirm what the Statistician General has said, the Statistician General will shy away from making the numbers available. And once you have a chief statistician in every country who shies away from making numbers available, you must know they've lost their independence. And once they lose their independence, they are not fit to stay in office. So how many people do we have in South Africa today? We are saying that as of today, 1st of July 2024, we have 63 million people. We have gone beyond the 62 million people that we counted in the census. And of course, we look at a lot of things when we talk about the population. Amongst other things, we use what we call fertility to help us estimate beyond the census. So the census happens once every 10 years. In the middle, we look at fertility, the number of people who die. Fertility is the number of live births born to a woman in her lifetime. We don't use men as a measure of fertility because men are never a reliable indicator of fertility. If you don't believe me, wait until you attend their funeral. You will see some of the children appearing, whereas women stick with their children throughout their lives. So, one of the things we are saying is that Limpopo has the highest fertility in the country. That dotted line that you see cutting, I think there's something that is not working very well. Yeah, that dotted line that you see cutting across from the top, it shows that that is the national average. So the national average is 2.41 children born for live births of a woman in her lifetime. So we can see that Limpopo, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Northwest, KwaZulu-Natal are higher. Actually, Limpopo and the Eastern Cape are leading in terms of fertility. Now, once a man, and I'm asked this question in KwaZulu-Natal, they say, but why? How comes we don't have fertility very high? Because we have polygamy. The fact is we treat every woman as an entity. So if you have 5 wives, every wife is treated as an entity when we deal with fertility. Now, when there are less than 2.1 children born, 2.1 is the mark. Once it's less than 2.1, it has reached replacement. So it means if me and my wife have 2 children, we haven't contributed to population growth. We have just replaced ourselves. So I want to see the hands of those who have contributed here today. I can see, yes. Now, let us look at the Western Cape and Gauteng. They are less than 2.1. So Premier Makura used to ask me, but Statistician General, what is the problem with Gauteng? Now it's Premier Lesufi. He asks me, what is the problem? Because we don't seem to be doing enough. I tell him, Premier, you are leading a province of very lazy people. Now, let us look at the population structure. The population structure of South Africa, we can see that it comes, we have from the left-hand side. So don't worry, I will sometimes guide you with colors, left and right. I come from Bantu education. My teacher, when inspectors came to the classroom, he used to tell me, when you know the answer, raise the right-hand side, the right hand, and if you don't know the answer, the left hand. And then the inspectors would think all these children are clever, and the teacher would choose the right hands only. So now, I will always guide you left, right, which color. Now, let us start at the left. At the left, we can see that we have a hump, a huge hump. It shows us that we have more children born. And then in the middle, where the gray color comes, we can see it's going down. Those are the effects of HIV. They are actually following us on our structure. And we see a hump again. It's because at some stage fertility had dropped. But the second hump that you see shows that now those women that are in those ages have increased the base of the number of children that are born. That's why we see more children. And of course, at the tail end is those that are 60 years and older. So we are saying children 0 to 14 are 17.3 million, accounting for 27.5% at the bottom. And then young people 15 to 34 years are sitting at 20.8 million, and they're accounting for 31.1%. So South Africa is relatively young. And adults 35 to 59 sitting at 18.7 million, accounting for 29.7%, and the elderly are less than 10%, 9.7%, sitting at 6.1 million. Now, the structures of provinces can differ. Let us look at Limpopo. We compare it with Gauteng. We can see that Limpopo has a lot more children at the bottom. Remember, we started with fertility. It's highest in Limpopo. So on the left-hand side, you can see there are more children. But in the middle, there are not so many people because they are migrant workers. They leave the province, they go to Gauteng, Northwest, any other province. Whereas in Gauteng, right-hand side green, you can see there are lesser children born because there are lazy people staying there. Now, when you go higher, you can see the working age people. The working age people are more because everyone leaves KwaZulu-Natal, they leave Eastern Cape, Limpopo, they go to Gauteng. And then now, let us talk about the populations now. Let us look at Gauteng. Gauteng tells us that they have 15.9 million people. That is about 25.3, the percentages are at the bottom. 25.3% of the population of South Africa resides in Gauteng, followed by KwaZulu-Natal, sitting with 12.3 million, accounting for 19.5%, all the way to the Northern Cape. So Gauteng has the smallest land mass, but it has the biggest population. The Northern Cape has the biggest land mass, but it has the smallest population, accounting for 2.2%. And of course, the Director General of the province of the Northern Cape, Mr. Justice Beggebege, asks me, what can I do to increase my population? So I say, since I was born in Limpopo where fertility is high, if he invites me maybe I will assist, but I can't guarantee. So, Kathy, that's a debate for another day, Clement. But let's continue. We are saying that Gauteng and the Western Cape are the fastest growing provinces. Look at the left-hand side. Look at Gauteng. It was in 2002, its population was 20%. Now it's at 25.3%. It's the fastest rising province. It's followed by the Western Cape. And of course, the ones that are losing in terms of share on the right-hand side are KwaZulu-Natal. Eastern Cape is losing the most. In the past, Eastern Cape used to lose people. Parents used to leave the Eastern Cape to go and work in the Western Cape. But today, they live with their children. There was an issue that was said by Premier Helen Zille at some stage, that we are having migrant people coming for education. While it was actually attacked politically, it is real. The parents are now living with their children to the Western Cape. It's the same with Gauteng. We are seeing Limpopo as the biggest contributor, and we are going to see very soon. Let us look at the provinces in terms of net migration. Let us start with Gauteng at the top. We can see that Gauteng, between 2021 and 2026, as estimated, will have seen a movement of about 745,000 moving. As you can see, the lighter color is bigger than the darker color. It means there are more people moving into Gauteng than moving out of Gauteng. Generally, what we are seeing out of Gauteng are people who retire working in Gauteng, the elderly, going back to their home provinces, and they overload the health sector when they arrive there because they go out to their home provinces to die. They have worked all their life in Gauteng and they go back to their home provinces. Whereas those who move to the Western Cape, particularly the white population group, they move to the Western Cape. And we can see the Western Cape comes second after Gauteng. And of course, all the way to the northwest because of the mines, Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, and of course, down at the bottom, we can see that the darker color, particularly for Limpopo and the Eastern Cape, is much more bigger than the lighter color. So we are likely to see more people leaving the Eastern Cape and Limpopo. So what will happen is that more children will be born in the Eastern Cape and Limpopo because fertility is high. And then these two provinces will donate to the other provinces going forward. And when we look in the next slide, we can see that, and we are just showing the movement into Gauteng. On the left-hand side are the provinces that are donating into Gauteng. On the right-hand side is everyone who moves into Gauteng. We can see that Limpopo internally, Limpopo is the biggest contributor of the population of Gauteng. The second one is people who come from outside. 50% of people who come from outside South Africa choose Gauteng as a destination. And we can see Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, the Free State are biggest contributors to the population of Gauteng. Remember, we have said the population of Gauteng is not driven by fertility. There are no children that are born there. They are born in Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and born outside South Africa and are being donated to Gauteng. What do? If your uncle or your aunt doesn't have children, you donate to them. So that's what we are doing to Gauteng now. Now, 50% of our population is in the largest 17 municipalities. And these municipalities start from city of Johannesburg, city of Cape Town, all the way, whereas 10% of our population is in the smallest 95 local municipalities. So what is happening is that people are moving away from rural areas to the bigger municipalities and metros because they are in search of greener pastures. And if we want to know where they are on the map, we can readily show city of Johannesburg, city of Cape Town, eThekwini, Ekurhuleni, city of Tshwane, all the way to Rustenburg. we can see everywhere where you see on the map is where 50% of our population is. And of course, Gauteng carries the biggest weight. Now, let us talk about service delivery. We want to start with formal housing. When we talk about formal housing, we talk about housing as the ones that we build for ourselves, including the low-cost housing called RDPs. Don't ask me about the quality of those houses. It's not our job. Our job is to check where do people stay. Now, we can see that in census 1996, 65% of our population said, on the left-hand side, said that they were staying in formal housing. Now, 88.5% of our population on the right-hand side, the green color. As that occurs, traditional housing in gray is starting to disappear. If you drive from Tefluop, or maybe you drive from Pulukwane all the way to Tsanin, in a place called Nobody, Hamutiba, you used to see a lot of traditional housing. They've disappeared. It's now formal housing. If you drive from East London all the way to Bisho, you no longer see as much as we used to see in the past. So informal housing is also disappearing. It's still prevalent. Informal housing is prevalent still in the Northwest, in Gauteng, and the Western Cape. But it is disappearing because formal housing is coming. Now, let us look at 1996 electricity. The yellow color you see, it means people have electricity as the main source for lighting, not lightning. I know people who come from some provinces will start promising others lightning, please. No, we are talking about lighting. And in this regard, when we look here, we can see that in 1996, only the city of Cape Town was above 80%. As of now, 2001, we can see Western Cape became yellow. And then most of the Eastern Seaboard, Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal on the Eastern Seaboard was still blue. It means we didn't have enough electricity. And of course, 2011, the whole country was getting yellow except the Eastern Seaboard. And finally, the whole country has electricity, more than 80% connections. The only municipality is a municipality called eMadlangeni in KwaZulu-Natal that is less than 80%. Don't ask me whether there's load shedding or not. When we ask people what is their main source for lighting, they say electricity. And then now disruptions are something else. And I will come to the next slide and talk about it when we talk about water. Look at water, 1996 from the left-hand side. You can see the darker the color you see, it means people had water. And we are talking about clean water. And when we talk about clean water, we talk about water in the dwelling, water in the yard, water in a communal facility, or water that they get from a borehole. And then all the way, but particularly here, people had water inside, either inside the dwelling or inside a yard. That is blue. We can see the Western Cape 1996 was covered. So is most of the country. What is quite interesting with South Africa is that when you move from the city of Cape Town, all the way from Cape Town on the N1 to Musina, a larger population is on the right-hand side of the N1. So you can see on the right-hand side of the map in 1996, people didn't have water.